I don't have an electronic studio. So the important thing for me was to meet somebody. And in London, there was this Daphne Oram, who started the BBC radiophonic workshop, I mean, way back when. And she said in the early days, she used to have to work at night when the place was basically closed, so she would have the recording equipment in the gents' bathroom and then would be running down the corridor with the mic to get the distance effect. I mean, all this, of course, you don't need now. But I remember working in her studio, and we had loops hanging up all around. You don't need that now. Young people now working in this have no idea what it was like when it was all new. And when I was studying in Paris in the 50s, you know, we talked about musique électronique et musique concrète. So electronic music, which was basically sound waves, very boring to work with, and musique concrète, which was from live sounds, and that's what I liked. I didn't like the sine waves and things. They were not interesting in themselves. So, but that was all really the beginning of things. So I delved. For certain works I've worked with that. Sometimes I use actual real sounds. I wrote once a radio opera, because when I was a kid, we didn't have television. You went to the movies to see what was happening in the war. You didn't have television at home. I mean, people can't imagine that now, let alone not having internet, but not having television. What's really funny, and I think was quite influential for me, is that when I was at university, and we had Tovey, Donald Francis Tovey, had brought over a composer from Vienna, I think realizing the Holocaust was about to happen, or something terrible was about to happen, Hans Gall. So I was studying composition with him. And to begin with, I wrote some rather staid pieces, and then I started getting more adventurous. And then for my degree, I thought, I have to be a composer, so I wrote a much more adventurous piece, and apparently they nearly failed me. And they passed me because they'd seen the conventional pieces before that. Now, when I went to Boulanger, I showed her the old-fashioned pieces, and she sort of looked at it and said, "Qu'est-ce que c'est que ça?" And I said, well, I do have this. And I showed her the thing that I had tried to do. "Ah," she said, "I understand. I see that you have ideas, but now we have to learn a little bit of technique now." She understood that there was something there that could be developed, which they had not seen. So that's how it started with her. Also, I think sometimes, like when I had this dream I told you about of so on, of the player rebelling. Sometimes you have to follow your crazy ideas and just go with it to see what happens. And I used to say to my students, you know, we all have this critic sitting on our shoulder, very fierce and rather nasty. I said, when you're beginning a work, you take this person, him, it's always a he, you take him to the door and you say, bye-bye, I don't want to see you just now. So when you have an idea, you don't say, oh, well, that's a stupid idea. You say, well, let's just put it there. Maybe if I did that, then that would happen. And on the other hand, if I did this, then that could happen. You don't say that's a stupid idea right off. You leave it, and you get all these ideas, you just put them down to be looked at. And eventually, you bring him back in. You say, now help me to evaluate what you've got here. But at the beginning, you cannot say, and another thing, Boulanger always said to me, you know, I used to write, you know, you didn't write on computers in those days. You wrote with pencil and paper or pen and paper. She said, don't ever erase anything. Because sometimes you go back to the very earliest idea and there's the nugget of something that's absolutely essential to the thing. It's like this. You don't say that's a bad idea. You put it there and something will come out of it. So I believe with going crazy ideas and not just rubbing them off the plate right away.